going to ask us to do something. What I feel God's placed in my heart to share this morning, I really feel is going to be impactful. I'd like to say for everyone, but specifically for some. But I also realise this, that as impactful as anything is dependent as to much as to we press in. Like, we'll receive as much from, like, God's given us all of Him. The question is, will we open our hands to receive it, right? And so, God's not holding anything back. And in fact, I feel that this morning that I really believe that God's wanting to deposit something into your spirit. And not just into your spirit, but into your actions that follow suit. So this is what I'm going to ask the band to do, especially I like that. As far as I want to know you, I want to be known by you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to give my heart to you. I want to know you, and I want to be known by you. I love that. As far as I want to know more of the King this morning, right? If you're here this morning and like, if you want to get to know God this morning, I'm going to ask the band, and we're going to sing through that chorus and then back into that bridge just once or twice. And here's my encouragement: lift your hands in worship. Lift your hands and say, "This is a declaration that I'm wanting to come at this morning, that I want to be known by Him, and I want to know more of Him. I want to engage with more of Him. I want Him to transform all of me, not just some of me. I want Him at work in my life." So let's just sing through that chorus a couple times, and then into that bridge. But let's lift our hands. Let's press in. If you want to connect with the King this morning, lift your hands and press in this morning. Yes, Jesus, that's our prayer this morning. We want to know you, Jesus. We want to know more of you, God. We want to pray that as we come and as we worship, and God, and as we engage, Jesus, Father, that we get to know more of the depth of your love, more of how big you are, God. And God, I want to pray this morning that as we've been worshiping, and specifically as we move into what it is that I feel that you've laid on my heart to share, God, I pray that you are made bigger than what you were when we first entered the building this morning. In Jesus' name. And everyone said, Amen. Band, worship team, you guys did amazing. Thank you. How is everyone this morning? That you are good. Hey, if you don't know me, if it's your first time, your whatever time, it doesn't matter time, like I am Robert, I'm one of the pastors here at Epicentre Church, and I feel thrilled to have you with us this morning. For those of you watching online, we are absolutely thrilled to have you guys here. And we are thrilled to have some noise here this morning, is that correct? How good is it, like, that there's this constant hum of paper turning and pencils and everything that comes with that? I'm not saying that sarcastically, but maybe at some point I will be. But I think that church should be the most exciting place for kids to turn up. Like, church should be the most exciting place for youth to be, for kids to be. It should not be boring. Is that correct? Yeah, I think it should be fun. It should be exciting. I love it. This is a plug to, especially, where is Kat? This is the plug to you. I love it when we have people turn up and their kids pester them to come back. I think that's absolutely fantastic, because I think church should be fun. It should not be boring. It shouldn't, like, I grew up in a church that was boring. Not completely all of my life, but specifically the start of my life. It was boring. The pews were cold. Like, everything was cold. Nothing clicked. Nothing made sense. I couldn't understand the words of the Bible nor the hymnal books. I never spoke in these and thous, but I am fluent in it these days, right? So I grew up in that, but it wasn't fun. I think church should be fun. And church should be full of lollies, is that correct? I think so. Anyways, hey, so before we get into this morning, there's just another two announcements that I want to run through it. Number one is this. We've partnered, at least for the next little bit, with this an organisation called You Choose in Echuca here. And throughout I didn't realise it was happening. I just found out, and so we're jumping on it. Through June, they were doing Soup Sundays every Thursday. Soup Sundays, and they were, like, obviously Soup Kitchen. They've been running a soup kitchen on Thursdays from 11 till 2. And they're continuing that, because it was so successful, continuing that through July. And I think that's fantastic, because they're wanting to serve a demographic in society that aren't getting looked after, helped. And so they're doing that with a coat drive, blanket drive, everything like that. And so we're helping out as best we can, where we can. So if you are interested, if you can support, it's on Thursdays, 11 till 2. If you want to be a part of that, as far as if you want to hand out jackets, coats, if you want to be just a listening ear, or you're just good at conversations, let me know, and we're going to go down there. We're going to connect. We're going to basically help them out. And following on from that, there's details yet to come, which I'm terrifiedly excited about that. The next thing. Who likes cold weather? No. Yeah. So what they're doing in August, date yet to be confirmed, but I want to get behind it because I think it's absolutely incredible, is that they are doing a homelessness awareness night. And what they're going to be doing is we're going to be sleeping out in some space, in some place here in Echuca. So with the idea that we're going to be raising money, we're going to be raising donations, all of that in order to support and ultimately support people in that demographic, as well as raise awareness. And I think what we're going to do next month is actually go through a whole series that talks about different things like this. It's going to be an incredibly raw series. Here's the problem with all this stuff, especially homelessness. Us as perhaps more well-off people have a very black and white opinion on it. That it's easily solved, it's easily fixed, that they should just whatever. It's not. Maybe some cases are, but there's a lot of grey, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of of that. And so we're going to actively try and talk about that through August in a couple of different ways. But that's happening. So Soup, not Sunday, Soup Kitchen, Thursdays, all this month, 11 till 2. If you can help out, would love you to help out. It'll probably be second weekend of August as far as sleeping out to raise money and that sort of thing. Like one night out in the cold, roughing it. And you can work out how to do that as comfortable as possible. I think it's a great cause to get behind and that sort of thing. So that's that. But anyways, let me jump into what I feel that God's placed on my heart. So how many of you like sports? Put your hand up if you're a sport fanatic. Keep your hand up if you're the sports fanatic that irritates people. Right? Yeah. The sport, yeah. We know that you are, Hannah, because we know what family you come from. And so how many of you do this? Like, if you're watching sports, you're yelling at sports. Yes. That seems like the normal thing to do. If you're watching sports, you're yelling at sports. Whether you're watching it in person or if you're watching it via the TV. You're yelling at sports. You're yelling at the umpires, right? And you're yelling at the players. You're yelling at the players from your team because they did something stupid and you can't believe that they had the nous to do that because you know how to do it better, right? And so you're yelling at them. Then you're yelling at the other team for being such jerks or for whatever. You're celebrating. You're booing. And you do this in person and then you do this online, like, right? This is what we do. And then when you do it in person, like there's nearly like this tribalistic thing that turns up, isn't it? If you go to a sporting game, you get with all your people and you didn't even know these people, but all of a sudden you're best friends with these people because you're all in the same tribe and you all want to, like, you're all against someone and you're all for someone. We've been, our kids have been doing basketball over this last term. And so every Thursday, it's Thursdays, isn't it, Wayne, Belinda? Every Thursday we go down and our kids are playing basketball and it's fantastic. We get to yell and scream. Wayne's very, very vocal. Wayne has a lot to say. Is that right, Wayne? Amen. Wayne's trying to become the assistant coach. There was one point where Wayne's kids were versing my kids. And at one point I turned to him and said, I want to champion yours, but I can't because there's mine. Like, oh no, that's right, because you were versing one of your sisters. And it's complex when you got sister versing sister. Which kid do you go for? Right? When both of your kids are playing for opposing teams, what child do you go for? So I pick the underdogs. That's what I do. But anyway, so Sage and I go, and because the stadium's cold, there's no heating in the stadium, what we do is we turn up and we got 2 blankets and a hot water bottle. So one blanket is to put down, and Wayne's been teasing me. So we put one blanket down on the seats because the seats are cold, and then we sit down, then we put another blanket over our laps because we're cold, and then we put the hot water bottle, and then it's a fight between Sage and I as who has the hot water bottle on our laps. And then from there, we cheer from the sidelines and yell from the sidelines and get engaged from the sidelines. And so you're standing from the grandstand looking down, I'm yelling at Miley, and I'm yelling at Georgia, get in the key! And then you say it enough and they turn around and they make all these hand gestures and eye contacts at you like, Dad, just shut up. And then they get in the car and you're like, the coach was saying this and then you're saying this. Can you stop talking because the coach is saying everything that you're not saying and it's the opposite. And like, yeah, but I know better than the coach, right? No. Anyways, like, it's fun, right? It's fun going and engaging with games, and yelling and screaming, and you don't boo at child's events because you get shamed really bad. So there's no booing, there's just celebrating, and you celebrate both teams. And it's fun getting involved. It's fun watching the AFL or soccer or whatever it is that you watch on TV and yelling and getting involved, isn't it? It's fun. It's enjoyable. It makes it like entertaining and all of that. But here's the thing. As much as I yell at my girls, it doesn't help, right? It doesn't help. As much as you yell at the TV, it doesn't help. Or yell at your team, it doesn't help because you're just on the sidelines having your opinion, you're everything. Like, you're not actively playing the game. You're just a spectator, right? And here's the thing, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and so it should be. I'm not wanting to dismiss any of that. But what we do with sports, we've done with faith. Like sports, we've turned into sports is very much a spectator thing that we watch and we get engaged with and yell at. And we have done the same thing with our faith. That we have turned it into an active thing, into a inactive thing where we're ultimately just becoming spectators. And this is what we do. We sit in the stands of life, watching the world play out in front of us, cheering when good things happen, right? Cheering when good things happen, booing when bad things happen, but never actually getting in the game. This is what we've turned faith into. Like we have opinions, we have thoughts, we have ideas, but we never actively get involved. And the problem with this, the problem with being a spectator is that you never actually change anything. You just watch it happen. You just watch life happen. You just watch chaos happen. You just watch whatever happen, and you have theories and opinions and all that, but you never actively get in the game. We're in a sermon series titled A Better. And this was meant to be the last one in the series, and it may still be the last one in the series. But I got confronted as I was writing it that I think there could be a week 8, but this is week 7. And so the idea of what we've been tracking for the last 7 weeks, this week being week 7, is that we've been going through this series on a better, which is probably a statement that you've made. Like, there's got to be a better way of doing this, a better way of cooking this, a better way of working at this. And that same idea, it tracks with faith. And so over the last 7 weeks, we've been looking at there's got to be a better insert whatever, right? And so we started with there's got to be a better joy. Being with the idea that comparison is the thief of all what? It's the thief of all joy. And so it was like got to be there's a better joy. There's a better connection, like encouraging us to be fully known so that we can be fully loved. And there was a better Bible which wasn't controversial, but rather really realistically with how we read about it, a better reaction, how we respond and how we act. And then the other things that we looked at was there's a better communion, a better way of doing communion. There's a better generosity. And last week, Pastor Chris shared about there's a better way of life, just a better way to live life. And so what I want to do is continue that theme on with this, and there is a better theology, a better way of understanding God, a better way of connecting with God, a better way of knowing God. Because when it comes to faith, we'll either have a theology that makes us spectators or a theology that makes us actively engaged in it. And so there's kind of like two theologies when it comes to understanding God and how the world works and things like that. And the first theology is this, it's like escape Christianity. I haven't been very creative with how I've written this stuff, so just bear with me. Like, there's escape Christianity. Escape Christianity is what I grew up with. My father and his family all grew up in the Exclusive Brethren, and they very much grew up with this idea of escape Christianity. It's all about escaping it, and it looks like this. Escape Christianity says that everything is getting worse. The world's getting worse, and it's going to get worse. Amen. It's going to get more evil. It's going to get more wicked. It's going to get more vile. It's going to get more. This is escape Christianity. Escape Christianity says this, that we just need to hold on until Jesus comes back, because he's going to come back and rescue us out. And this kind of took traction, I think it was in the 50s and 60s, specifically with a book called The Late Great Planet Earth, that specifically talked a lot about the rapture and all this stuff that was going to happen. God was going to save us from this wicked and vile world. It's escape Christianity. It also says that this world belongs to Satan. This world belongs to that which is evil, that is the ruler, that is the governor of this world. And our job is just to stay pure and wait. Stay pure and wait until God rescues us from this space. So the only thing that we end up doing is we end up trying to convince people that you need to say yes to Jesus, and then there's a fight to stay pure, so that when God comes back and he will save you and rescue us from this place. So there's escape Christianity, and then the other one, which maybe I should have thought about wording better because it doesn't really explain it how I wanted to, but it's invasion Christianity. Now, do not think of the Crusades. So after I did it, I realized that maybe that wasn't the best. This isn't about invading other places and forcing them to conform. But the idea of invasion Christianity is that we are pushing a barrier back, meaning this, that God's kingdom is advancing. God's kingdom is advancing. It's like invasion Christianity says that God's kingdom is advancing. It is not coming backwards, it is going forwards. It is not being pushed back, it is pushing forwards, right? It's advancing, it is powerful, it is engaging, it's advancing. Jesus gave us the keys to bring heaven here to earth. Not huddle and hide because the darkness is strong, but to actually do something, bring heaven to earth. Invasion Christianity says this, the darkness doesn't get the final word. Like darkness is not stronger than the king. And a lot of our theologies, while we wouldn't say it, how we act and pray and all of that suggests that darkness does get the final word here in this world. And it suggests that something is stronger than the king. But invasion Christianity says that darkness doesn't get the final word. It says that our job is to push back hell wherever we find it. Is to push back hell wherever we find it. And here's the issue with these two conflicting ideas. One, escape Christianity leads to scared, fear-driven, anxious Christians that are wondering whether God's wanting to act in their lives, engage in their lives, into the lives of the people around them. The other one creates bold, strong, faith-filled Christians that believes God's always doing, working, and he will never stop. It leads to one or the other, which lands me at the big idea that I want to get to this morning is this, that we're not called to escape hell. We're not called to escape hell. We're called to invade it. We're called to invade it. And so the issue with one or the other is this, that we end up determining this theology of that all Jesus did was come so that we can make a decision, so that one day that we can get to eternity when we die. That's the escape mentality. One day I will get to eternity when I die. If that's the be-all, end-all of what Jesus did, that's escape mentality. As opposed to invasion is, that's the payoff. That's fantastic. That's incredible. That's good. But you know what? Here in this world, we get to be part of God's plan of advancing his kingdom, which is the very idea that I want to try and extract and talk to us about this morning. And I think for some of you, it's going to drop some absolute gold nuggets. And you're going to be like, my goodness, I never saw that. Some of you are going to be confronted and you're not going to be sure what to do with some of this. Some of you are going to be challenged in other ways, but I'm confident of this, that if you press in and listen to what I feel that God's wanting to get across this morning, that he has something powerful for you that will enact your faith to go further. And so, what I want to do is talk about this story from Matthew 16, and it's kind of important to try and set up the backstory to everything that is taking place here. There's basically what Jesus is doing. He's going to Caesarea Philippi with his disciples. And now this is really important. This is incredibly important because no holy person would go here. No rabbi would go here. No priest would go here. Caesarea Philippi was the epicenter of worship to this god, this Greek god called the god Pan. And this stuff was messed up, what would take place here. And so, like I said, Caesarea Philippi was this place that was built on a rock. It was a rock formation, and there was this specific cave that we're going to get to in a little bit, and we're going to unpack and talk about it. But it was the center of the worship of the god Pan, and there was a temple erected to that in this space. And then once a year, they would have this spiritual festival. It would happen like this all the time, but specifically once a year. It was absolutely crazy. And the festival was called Pandemonium, which is where we get the word pandemonium from. And so they would have this, and I'm going to try so hard to keep this. No, I'm not going to try. I'm going to make this G-rated. But basically, to give you an idea, what takes place here, I can guarantee you, in your lewdest thoughts, you will never come close to understanding the depravity or even imagining the depravity that was taking place consistently here. And so specifically for the festival of Pandemonium, what would happen is they had this giant 6-foot tall statue of a male, right? and that would go on a cart, and then that would get paraded down around the streets. And what would happen is all the women would jump on, not all the women, because the cart can only handle so many women, but women would jump on that and turn into a frenzy, and you can work out what that looks like and that sort of thing. And so that's happening. And while that's taking place in the temple grounds, in the temple courtyard, in the entrance to the temple, in the open to everyone, you've got men engaging with goats. And if this is kind of nuts, it should be. If this is disturbing, it should be. And I can't really say much more about it because everything gets incredibly R-rated after that, right? But that's what's happening there. And that happened, chiefly, it happened once a year for the Festival of Pandemonium, where thousands of people would come and flock to worship the Greek god Pan. In fact, some scholars suggested that up to 1 million people would turn up for this celebration. But it didn't just happen then. This would happen consistently throughout the year. Maybe not the statue being gone through, but the engagement with goats and shrine prostitutes and all that. This stuff was happening consistently and not behind closed doors. This was open for anyone to see as they walked past, which very much begs the question or not necessarily begs the question, but points fiercely at our idea that the world's getting worse. We think it's getting sexually corrupt now. It is nothing. Now is nothing compared to what it was. And it's so important to understand especially this, because when we look at the overarching arc of Scripture to see the transformation of what the kingdom is bringing, is the world perfect? It's far from it. Is there still sexual perversion? Absolutely. Do we perhaps know more about it? Because we've got Facebook, social media, and we are internationally connected. Yes, 100%. Is it as perverse as it was back in Jesus' time? No. The king is winning. This is so important when it comes to our theology, because is our theology the king is winning, or is our theology the darkness is winning? This is so important, this stuff. And so this is where they are heading, and this is so important because that place is like the red light district of the then world at the time. No holy man in his right mind would go there. No Jew in their right mind would go there, nor would a rabbi take his disciples there, because it was unclean. Unclean people doing unclean things, worshipping unclean things. But that's where Jesus is heading. And so when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, him and his disciples, you can kind of imagine it, because the disciples, they would have been walking behind Jesus, right? So how this would work in Jesus' time, a rabbi would walk in front and the disciples would walk behind. They didn't walk side by side. Disciples walked behind the rabbi. Conversation happened if the rabbi initiated it. And this was about a day and a half walk. It was about 40 kilometers. And the crazy thing is this. It's on the way to nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. It's not like Jesus is you know what, we're going to go to that place over there and do insert blank. No. This is out of the way. This wasn't we're going to go there and on the way we have to unfortunately stop off for the night at. No. There's nothing else going there, and you can imagine the disciples, they're walking behind him. He's not talking, but they know where they're going. There's signs up. 35 Ks, Caesarea Philippi. Last petrol stop, Caesarea Philippi. Las Vegas ahead, whatever, right? And so they know where they're going. You can imagine they're whispering to one another, what is going on? Why is he taking us to this place? Surely there's got to be a detour. Surely, because we can't. This is lewd. This is not right. This is unholy. In fact, they're thinking this is the exact place that we don't want to go. This is the exact place that we're wanting God to rescue us from, because this is the epicenter of everything that is unholy. The very thing that we're waiting on God to liberate us from. The people that worship these lewd happenings are the people that oppress us. And so they were wrestling most likely with Jesus on the way to this. Why on earth? Or at least talking amongst themselves. Because they're thinking, no one in their right mind goes to something that dark, that evil, that vile, that wicked. We're waiting on God to rescue us. And that's important for us, because if our revelation of God's plan looks like a rescue operation rather than a renewal mission, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with our understanding of him, our understanding of Christ. If it's that, then by default, we are saying that in this world, God is second place to the power of darkness. When we've got escape theology, the world is going to get eviler, it's going to get wicked, what we're saying is that God is second place to the power of darkness. So many of us live with that theology. So many of us grew up with that theology. We're taught that theology. That the world is going to get worse, it's going to get more wicked, it's going to get more vile, it's going to get more. And we can talk about this in a whole host of other angles, and I'm happy to sit down and have coffees and unpack revelations and different things like that to you, but I think it's one of the most messed up theologies that the church has got, because it keeps us inactive rather than actively trying to advance, actively trying to engage. And so Jesus wanted to do this. He wanted his disciples to see this. The darkness doesn't get the final word. Jesus wanted his disciples to see that darkness doesn't get the final word. He's taking them to a specific place to say, darkness will not get the final word. Not now. Not now. Not then. Not ever. Darkness doesn't get the final word. In your life, darkness doesn't get the final word. In your family, darkness doesn't get the final word. In your community, darkness doesn't get the final word. In your business, darkness doesn't get the final word. Darkness never gets the final word. Right? And that's what Jesus is trying to point out and trying to extract. And so the question I'd ask you is, what's the darkness that's in your life convincing you that it is stronger than God? Because for the disciples, I can nearly guarantee that the darkness in their life that was stronger than God at that point, they were marching straight towards. They had a theology of a big God, but they didn't have a reality of a big God. They had lived their lives in oppression. They were still currently in oppression, constantly oppressed by the superpowers around them. What's the darkness in your life that's convincing you that it's stronger than God? And so when they came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say that the Son of Man is? Who do people say that he is? And they look around pondering, and you can imagine the struggle, because they've got to this place, they've got to the most likely the temple at the center of pan worship, the most unholy place that they could get to at the time, and then he's asked them, and they would have been flabbergasted, not knowing how to answer this. Confused as to where to look, what can I look at, where can I, so distracted, everything. He's like, who do people say that I am? Who do people say that I am? And they replied, some say John the Baptist, others Elijah or Jeremiah. And then other people say, you're one of the prophets. And then he pushes back and he's like, you've answered well, but I want to know deeply. So I'm wanting to get to the heart of it. And he looks at them and he asks them, but who do you say that I am? And I think the other disciples were kind of fumbling because they're like, this is so distracting. Everything that's going on here is absolutely crazy, nuts. And Jesus, we cannot even believe that you have brought us here. And then Peter stands up in general Peter boldness style. And Simon Peter, because he's still called Simon, he's about to have his name changed as Peter. That's why it's Simon Peter. Simon Peter, he stands up and he answered, you are the Messiah. You are the Messiah. And if you were to pause there for a minute, Peter answering that Jesus is the Messiah isn't a big deal. We make it out to be a big deal, but it's not as big a deal as we think. That part of his statement. Because there was a plethora of messiahs in Jesus' time. Jesus wasn't the only one that people claimed was the Messiah. And especially in that time, they didn't necessarily connect the Messiah with being divine. The Messiah was someone that would come, that would do something, and they believed that he'd come and liberate, but it wasn't necessarily, or not all scholars at the time at least connected the Messiah with being divine. That's very much a later thing that we realize through the scope of theology and biblical studies and reading, that we realize all these things that we're talking about and that we can connect the dots together. But at that time, they didn't. They didn't make that divine connection. So that's what makes Peter's point next so incredibly powerful. He says that you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. which is so important because they're standing at the epicenter of everything unholy that says that should be pushing God down. But he comes up with this idea that the Messiah, and in his mind, would have been coming to liberate them and set them free. But that wasn't the end. He says that you are the Son of the living God, meaning this, that I have this realization in this place, in this space, that God is alive, and not only that, that you are he. And what he's saying, and by doing that, what he's saying is that darkness will never come and never dethrone the king. It's a revelation of realizing that in the darkest place that he could find himself, he has this unwinding revelation that Jesus is not just the Messiah, but he is the Son of the living God, that God is alive and active. And especially for him, what he's claiming is this, that we believe God's kingdom is going to be advancing. When you look back and you read all the scriptures that talk about the living God, there's only a handful in the Old Testament that use that word living God. There are scriptures that talk about advancing the kingdom forward. So he's speaking so specific. Peter knows his scripture. He's been so specific, and he's answering in such a way that you are alive, and that means you are advancing the kingdom forward. So Jesus hears that, pushes back, or doesn't push back, he responds with, you are blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. And then he goes with this. Now, I say to you that you are Peter, which means rock, and on this rock I will build my church, and the powers of hell will not conquer it. And so, everyone say rock. Everyone say church. Everyone say hell. Let's do that again. Rock, church, hell. Again, rock, church, hell. Okay, rock, scissors. I don't know, it messed up my mind. I made it up as I was going. That's why I butchered it really bad. So as far as, he's not playing paper, scissors, rock. It's not like rock, church, hell. Wonder what that could be. Let's not go that way. I want to, really quickly, I want to, just break those things apart, right? And say, Jesus uses three things, rock, church, hell. So throughout history, rock effectively has gone down in three ways in history, and one less so known, two more so known. Like in the Catholic tradition, it is like Peter is the rock because Jesus renames him as the rock. And so when Jesus says on this rock, he's saying on Peter, which isn't incorrect, it's correct. There's truth in that. Peter becomes the first pope of the church. There's truth in that. Peter becomes the first pope of the church, being this, that on this rock, on Peter, being the leader, that I'm going to build my church. There's something correct in that. But then there's another two parts of it as well, though. On this rock being, Peter has just highlighted what it is that Jesus is going to do. That he's going to advance the kingdom. That he is the Messiah, Son of the living God. On that confession is the rock, right? So it's Peter the Pope, but it's also Peter's confession, the realization. And then on top of that, the last one is this, that Jesus most likely is standing beside a rock, Caesarea Philippi, and pointing to that, the most unholy, vile place, and saying, on this rock. Wanting to try and get through to them this pictorial idea. And so I think it's all three, but specifically what I probably want to bottom out on this morning, that I think, at least this morning, that the best way of understanding it is on this confession, because it's something that we can all do. We can all have this confession that on this rock, on this foundation, on this understanding of who it is Jesus is, that he's not dead, that he is alive, he is the Messiah, Son of the living God, I will do something. And so that's rock, the understanding, the proclamation of who it is that Jesus is. But then when we come to these two, here's the problem with these two things. You all, including me, you all have a preconceived idea of what church and hell is, ingrained into you. By movies, by pop culture, by preaching, by all of that. And so for most of us, when we say church, we think of a building. Is that correct? Some of you won't, because hopefully you've listened to some really good teaching. But most people, you say church, we think of building. And then we say hell. What do we think of when we think of hell? Vanessa, what do you think of? Fire! Yeah, shoot. You and I can have good conversations.
church, hell. Like we think building, hell we think of fire, we think of punishment, we think of demons running around with pitchforks. Right? That's our understanding, that's what we think of as hell. And so when we get to this, what I'm not trying to suggest is that hell doesn't exist. I believe hell 100% exists, and you don't want to be there, right? But our understanding of hell is completely contrary to any biblical understanding of hell. And so you got church and hell, and so let's just explain church really quickly. Like the Bible wasn't written in English, it was written in Greek and Hebrew primarily. And anyone that's done any word studies will know that trying to get word translations from one language to another, especially ancient translations, it just doesn't work perfect. It's not a perfect science, in other words. And so church, the Greek word for church is ecclesia, which means a called out gathering of people. And I think the best way of understanding the church, because it's not just a group of people that are called out as a gathering, it's called out on a mission to do something. And I think the best way to explain church is it's a movement of people moving people towards life. If you've been a part of this church for any time, you will have heard me preach about it. And so ultimately, the rock and church together, what Jesus is saying is the rock is the understanding that Jesus is the Son of the living God, and that declaration is the foundation, being the rock that Jesus will build his movement or his church on, right? So that's that. So you got rock, then you got church, and then you got hell. And in this space, and in this translation, it's actually the Greek word for hell here is Hades. Right? And different translations will say it differently. The New Living Translation, which I'm going through, it talks about the powers of hell. Other translations will use the gates of hell, But here's the thing. The gates of hell or the gates of Hades was an actual place, and that was Caesarea Philippi. That was an actual place. In Jesus' time, you could go and stand beside the gates of hell. And the gates of hell was this specific place, what they believed that the Greek god Pan would go into. There was this cave at the shrine of the temple for the Greek god Pan, and that they believed that Pan would enter through this cave and go into the underworld and would remain there for winter, and then this festival of pandemonium would happen in the end of winter in order for him to come out. If they had pleased him, that he would come out and they would have a good spring, or they'd have good pregnancies, or they'd have good all of the above. And so they believed that this was this doorway to the abyss, this doorway to the grave, this doorway to the underworld. And so Jesus he's not standing on this place where like it's demons with pitchforks and like prodding you and like all of that. In fact, for the most part, our understanding of hell that most of you will have grown up with is from Greek mythology and Dante's Inferno. It's not from the Bible. Hell exists. Hell is real. No one wants to go there. But the hell that Jesus is talking about is not what you think of. This is a very different hell. This is a literal hell that you can stand beside. And so what he's saying, ultimately, on the foundation that the King is alive, active and present in this world, I am going to do this. I'm going to build my movement or build my church. And the gates of hell will not prevail. In fact, they are going to fall. They're going to fall. They will not prevail. They will fall. On this rock, on this very place, on this very foundation, you as a person will build my movement, and nothing will stop my movement from advancing and the kingdom from coming. Nothing will stop it. It's going to continue to grow and get better because the King is active, alive, and present in this world, which leapfrogs him into this where he says to his disciples, and I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. I'm going to ask the band to come. So we're going to start wrapping up in a second. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven, and whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. And there's a whole lot of different ways that you could extract and talk about that and look at that. And some of you will know the different ways and the different understandings. But here, let me just suffice to say this. That what he's saying is ultimately this. I am putting you at the forefront of advancing the kingdom. I'm putting you at the forefront of advancing the kingdom. And the kingdom of heaven was never designed to be a passive kingdom waiting for God's rescue mission of just God to snatch us out of this earth and save us. But rather, it's this. The kingdom of heaven is supposed to be leading the way in bringing heaven to wherever we see hell today. Hell in people's lives. So the question I'd ask you is, where do you see hell showing up in your life right now? Maybe you're wrestling with addiction. Maybe it's theology that just keeps you assuming that Satan's going to win. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's your bank account. Maybe there's a literal presence of this spiritual overtone that's shattering over you and lording it over you. Where do you see it? And then the follow-up question is, where do you see hell in the world around you? Where do you see hell in the people's lives around you? You know, one of the reasons that we want to partner with YouTubes for the soup kitchen is because for some of those people, they're going through a living hell. The eternal hell that the Bible talks about is a whole lot worse than the hell that they're living in, don't get me wrong, but they're going through hell. So often as Christians, we talk about like bringing heaven to earth. We have got this idea that we can bring heaven to earth with this idea that there can't be a hell on earth. If heaven can come to earth and touch earth, I can guarantee you that so can hell. And some of you know it because some of you are going through hell. Or some of you have been through hell. So what's the hell that you see in the lives of people around you? Maybe it's friends that are struggling with substance abuse. Maybe it's a loved one that's just being swallowed by debt. Maybe it's someone that just cannot get past what someone said to them and it's destroying every part of their lives. Maybe it's someone that was hurt by the church. Like, where do we see it? And the question is, like, what do we do? We're meant to do this. We're meant to bring heaven to wherever you see hell. So if you're not sure what that looks like, it looks like this. Listening deeply to someone who feels alone. This stuff isn't hard. Listening deeply to someone who feels alone. Praying for a co-worker who's sick or struggling. Or there's others, like offering forgiveness instead of bitterness, leading the way with something, or helping someone tangled in debt or addiction take like one small step forward. These are like, what I'm not asking or calling or challenging you to do is be the complete solution. The only complete solution to that is Jesus. But we can be people that take people on the journey, of go on the journey with people and help see people restored and help see people connected and help see people engaged with. Where do you see hell? And how can you actively do that? It can be volunteering at your community for those who feel forgotten, speaking up when injustice happens at work. And we do this ultimately because of this, that Jesus said that I am giving you the keys to the kingdom. That's you. Not me. No, not just me, sorry. That's you. What he's not saying, he said to his disciples, and 2,000 years ago, he's saying it to us. I'm giving you the keys. Not the church, the keys, or the organization, the keys. Not the pastor, the keys. Not the good Christian, the keys. Not the this. I'm giving you the keys of the kingdom. So it comes back to like, if we've got this escape mentality, then we're waiting to be rescued. But if we've got this other one where we're advancing, then we get to bring heaven to wherever we see hell enacting in someone else's heart. And here's the thought, right? 2,000 years ago, thereabouts, Jesus has the conversation with his disciples at the epicenter of everything that was wrong and asks the question, who do you say I am? 2,000 years later, the question hasn't changed. 2,000 years later, the question is still the same thing. What do you think about me? The question I'd ask you is, what do you think about the King? What do you think about Jesus? What's your theology when it comes to this? Because, and this is so important, I don't want you to miss this, it's so important because if Jesus is just a good teacher, sure, died to set you free and all that, but if he's just a good teacher, then sure, hide from the world and wait for rescue. But, and this next one is supposed to transform everything. This is why I think I need a week 2 to explain how all this is interconnected as far as the crucifixion and the resurrection and the story of the Bible and everything to land at this. But this is so important, but if he is the Son of the living God, not dead, not alive, not just waiting until the time to turn up, to come back and rescue him. But if he's the Son of the living God, living and active, and he's the one who holds the keys to life and death, then he's calling you to something bigger. You as a person are called to something bigger. If you are a Christian and have said yes to the King, you are called to something bigger than just going through life, waiting for rescue, hoping that maybe someday something better. You are called to something better. And it looks like this. He's calling you to invade the hell in your own life as well as in the world around you. He's called you to be active participants in advancing his kingdom forward. So the question is, who do you think Jesus is? What's your theology? Waiting for rescue, believing that the King is advancing. What's your theology? How about you stand? I want to pray for you. Then we're going to sing part of a song. I'm going to hand over to Kat, who will close. But if the next step for you perhaps is that you want to know more, maybe I've triggered some stuff and you want to have conversations. I'd love to chat with you after the service or have some conversations this week. Or if you want to take the next step of faith and start your journey with Jesus, come to the front. We'd love to chat with you. But let me pray. Jesus, we say thank you that, God, that you don't take a backseat role in this world, God, but you are advancing the kingdom, that you are bringing the kingdom. God, I want to say thank you that your kingdom is more powerful than the kingdom of this world, Jesus, and that your kingdom is advancing and cutting through and destroying the kingdom of this world. God, I want to say thank you that in our lives, God, that darkness won't have the last word, won't have victory. In this world, darkness won't have the last word nor victory, but your kingdom will, God. And so, God, I want to pray that us as people can be deliberate individuals that realize that we have a mission, and that our mission is to be individuals that are advancing your kingdom forward, not backwards. In Jesus' name, amen.
Broken hearts made about you, but I'm confronted with some things that Rob said. And I know that for some of you, that would have just been a little bit earth-shattering in that you may not have heard that perspective before. That God, that we don't just have to wait for God to come back. That we have the keys, hey? We have the keys to do something. We have the keys to push back against hell. We have the keys to do something in our lives. That we aren't just people called to just sit around and do nothing. We are called to do something. So today, before we go, if that was really confronting to you and you feel like you need some prayer, we want to pray. Come up the front after the service. We would love to pray for you. If there's something in you that just, that you feel like you don't have the keys. If you feel like you don't have the keys, come up the front. We want to pray with you. And if there's anything else you want to pray for, come up the front too. Other than that, we have Winter Warmer now out in the kids' room. We're going to head out to the kids' room, have some food. It's all smelling delicious. I went out there before. Go and grab a coffee, enjoy some food together, and let's just communicate, chat, have some fun time, and we will see you all next week. Have a good week.